Okay, so yesterday we discussed about the basics of HTML. Today we'll be dealing with basics of CSS. We'll be seeing basic CSS attributes and other stuffs related to CSS. Okay, so let's start. So the first thing that we'll be seeing is basic formatting tags. And by formatting, we simply mean the elements or tags that help us to format element or to design an element. Okay, so we'll start with bold tag, which is used to make a text bold. Like we can write this as a bold text here. There's a bold text. Let's close the bold tag. We have an italic tag for making a text italic. Okay, so you can write italic text, and we have strike through text, and that is written as strike, or you may even write just S. We can save. We can open it in. Okay, so it's saved. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna open it in browser. So right click and open it in browser, and now you can see there's the bold text, there's the italic one, and this is strike through. There are other means to write the same thing. Like for bold text, we have a strong tag. There is also normally bold text. There is also bold. Okay. For italic, we have EM tag. Let's save it. Go back to the browser, refresh the page, and you may also see that the stuff that we wrote inside the strong tag also appears bold. And the stuff that we wrote in the italic tag or the EM tag appears to be italic. Okay. Now we're gonna see some other stuffs. Or we'll say that we'll be starting with CSS now. So as I told you yesterday that style tag is for CSS or for writing style sheets. So before actually starting with CSS, I want to say that there are three types of styling or three types of putting a style in a file. The first one is inline styling. Okay, inline styling. The second one is internal styling. And the third one is external styling. So what is inline styling? Inline styling basically is, inline simply means that we do the same the styling in the same line. For example, if we want to style this body tag, then what we'll be doing is we'll be writing a style here, a style attribute here, and suppose if we want to give background color to the body, we can write background color here. Okay, we can write background color here, and suppose that we want to give background color red to the body, we can just write background color red, and this is known as inline styling. Let's go back, refresh the page, and you can see that our body is now colored in red. We can even add more styles here, but let's now see internal styling. So let's get rid of this now. And in internal styling, what we do is we write style tag inside the head tag. Okay, there's the head tag, there's the opening head tag, there's the closing head tag. So we write style tag inside the head tag, and we do our styling here. So for styling a particular element, what we do is we need to select this element in the style tag. So to select that particular element, we can simply write that element's name. And suppose we want to give background color again to the body. Let's give yellow this time. Let's save it. Let's go back to the browser and refresh. Now you can see that the background color of the page of the body is yellow. So this is internal styling. And external styling, let's see external styling too. For external styling, what we do is we create a new file. So you can just click on file here, and you can click on new file, or you can press Ctrl N for creating a new file. Let's hit Ctrl S. Now Let's name it something. So I'm going to name it styles.css. Okay, let's save it. And now we need to link that file. We need to link styles.css to our index.html file. And to link that, what we do is we use link tag. And in Sublime, as you know, there is a shortcut for everything. You can just write lin, and if link appears there in the drop down, you can just press enter and link syntax will appear there. So href, as I told you in the previous example of a tag, that href is for linking particular thing, anything. So for linking a style sheet, we also use the href attribute. So here we created a styles.css. So now also we'll link it by writing href is equal to styles.css here. Okay, so now this is linked. Now we can do the same thing. We can just write body here, and suppose we want to give some background color to the body, we can give the background color to the body here. You can go back and refresh the page and see the same effect. So it all depends upon the situation, that whether you want to use internal styling, external styling, or inline styling. You can use any of them. Okay. So now we'll be moving to width and height attributes. For that, let's make a division. So I made a division tag here, and for selecting this division tag, what we need to do is we need to write div. Let's clear this. We need to write this div here in the styles. And suppose that we want to give some background color to the div. So again, we can write background color. Let's give it trade background color. Let's save it. Open the browser again, refresh, and you will see that nothing appears here because the content of div is empty. There is nothing in the div. Let's write something, abcd, anything. Refresh the page again, and now you can see that background color red appears for this div, for the text abcd. Now suppose that we don't want this div to acquire the entire space. So to limit that space, or to give it a particular height, what we do is we use the height and width attribute in CSS. So we can say height is equal to 300 px, and px stands for pixels. Okay. So now go back, refresh it, and now you can see that the height of the div is 300 pixels. We can even give it a width. Let's give it a width. Width is equal to 200 pixels. Let's go back, refresh the page, and now you can see the width to be 200 pixels. It's a little bit zoomed in, that's why it's appearing much. We can also give width and height in percentages. Suppose we want to give width of 100% to this div. So we can write width 100%, okay? Now we can refresh the page, and now you can see that width of 100% is acquired by this div. But there's still white space between the borders, right? This space right here, this space, this space. So to remove that space, what we do is we can give it a margin of 0. Because by default in HTML, a particular margin and particular padding is set by the browser itself. So we need to remove it in the very beginning. So to remove margin and padding from every element, we have a selector called star, and star simply means that we are selecting every element. So we can give every element a margin of 0, padding of 0. Now it should work. Okay, so you can see that that's gone. That space, that white space is gone now. So now suppose that you want to separate this div from the body or from the corners. Okay, to do that we'll use margin again. So let's give it a margin of 20 pixels, and now you can see that the margin of 20 pixels is applied from the left and right, but the margin is not applied from the right side. This is because we have given it a width of 100%, so we can just limit the width to 50%, and now Can see the effect right here. If we have a box model for everything related to margin padding, and we'll be discussing that in a moment. So how does the box model look like? To see the box model, what you can do is you can just open the console, or you can click on inspect here, and you can see the box right here. Okay, so this is basically the box model of CSS. At first we have the width and height of a particular element, then we have padding, then we have border, then margin. So this is basically the box model of CSS. We'll see it in a moment. Okay, for doing that, what we'll do is we'll create two divs, div and div. There's a second div, right? Let's give it inline styling right here. We'll give it a width of style is equal to width 300 pixels, and we'll also give it a background color. Let's give it red for now. Let's remove this style from here. Okay, and let's try something in this div, in the internal div. Let's refresh the page. Let's give it a height also. Height is equal to, let's say, 300 pixels. Okay, so now it's 300 pixels. Now what we're gonna do is we are gonna also give this div, the internal div, a style. Basically we'll give it a background color. Let's say we are giving the background color of white. So hash FFF is hexadecimal color encoding, and it generally stands for white color. We can go back to Edge and we can refresh the page, and let's change the color. As the default color of body in case of browsers is white, so it's difficult to distinguish. So now it's visible. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna give it a margin 10 pixels. Okay, so we are giving this internal div a margin of 10 pixels. And you can see that a margin of 10 pixels appear here. And margin, as it was seen in the box model, is the outermost margin. Okay, and padding is the innermost space. So if we'll give it a padding, let's give it a padding of 20 pixels, you will see a space between this text and the green background. Okay, so this is generally the padding, 20 pixels from left, 20 pixels from right, 20 pixels from bottom, and so on. Okay, so now we have some other attributes too. We'll clear this. Let's take a normal p tag for discussing that attributes. I'm going to write a random text here. Let's select p tag, and let's refresh the page here. Let's zoom out to 100%. And now the first attribute related to font is font size. Okay, font size. So we can give our text a particular font size. Say we want to give it a font size of 30 pixels. Let's see the effect. Now you can see that the font size is certainly greater than what was it in the previous case. We also have font style. We also have font family. Let's use font style, and let's use font style as italic. Italic is the same as the I tag or EM tag that we used in HTML. Now you can see that the text becomes italic. Apart from this, we have font color, and that's simply color. We can give our font a color of red. Let's refresh, and now you can see that our font color is red. And for commenting in CSS, what we do is we use /* asterisk and for closing the comment, asterisk and / again. We also have text decoration property for text, and we can either underline the text or we can make it a strike through, as we did in the case of U tag and S tag. So there is the underlined text, and if you want to make it strike through, you can write line through here. Okay, so the text is strike through now. We have other properties for font, and one property is text shadow. So text shadow is generally the shadow of a particular text. Let's see it in effect and then it will be more clear. Let's give it a color of green. Okay, go back, refresh the page, and now you can see a shadow. Okay, so this 2px, the first parameter here, is the horizontal width or horizontal cover of the text shadow. This is the vertical cover of the text shadow, and this one is basically the color of the text shadow. If you want some other color, like if you want red, you can give red color here. If you want to increase the text shadow, suppose now we are increasing the distance of text shadow horizontally, so we can do that like this. We can give 4px instead of 2 pixels, and now you can see horizontal distances increased a little bit. We also have a parameter for blur, like we can give 10 pixels here, and now let's see the effect. So this is basically the blur radius. Now you can see that the text shadow is blurred a little bit. So this is all about the blur parameter of text shadow. Now the next thing that we'll be discussing is line height. Suppose you want to give more height or less height between two lines of a particular paragraph or a particular div or a particular text. So you have a property called line height in CSS. We can give it a line height of 30px, and let's see the effect here. Now you can see that the line height decreased. Let's give it a line height of 60px, and you can clearly see the effect now. The line height is certainly more than what was it in the previous case. We have letter spacing and word spacing too. Letter spacing is basically what is the distance between two letters, or what is the spacing between two letters of a particular word. So you can use it like this. We can write letter spacing, and let's give it a space of 10 pixels. Let's refresh the page, and now you can see that the space between two letters of a particular word is 10 pixels. Let's comment it out. We also have a property called word spacing, and word spacing is generally space between two or more words. So let's give it a space of 20 pixels. Now you can see that the space between two words is certainly increased. Okay. We also have a property called font style. Okay, we already discussed font style. So we also have a property called font family. So the default font family in this case is Times New Roman. We can change this to Arial. I just wrote Arial here. And now you can see the font family changed. There are other font families too, like Monospace is one which is supported by nearly every browser. You can see this is Monospace. And so you must have understood that how we added this style set. We just created a new file. We went to file, we create a new file here. We saved it as styles.css. Suppose you want to, if you want to add some other style set apart from styles.css, let's name it styles1.css. okay, so you can save it now. You can now link it here, styles1.css, and suppose you want to style the body tag in this CSS file and other tags in this CSS file. So you can do the same. You can give background color here, red, and now you can see that the background color of body will be red. So this was just an example to show you that you can have more than one style sheet for a particular HTML file. And this is basically done to make styling more clear. Like if everything will be in the same style sheet, if everything will be in the same file, then it will not be easy for you to read that. So it's better to separate different styles in different files. Okay. Now let's discuss the next thing. Which is designing layouts. And we'll be designing layouts with the help of Flexbox. Let's open Paint at first for making it a little bit interactive. So you must have seen some web pages look like this, having a layout like this, a left navigation bar, and a content bar here, right? You must have seen something like this. There must be something added like this too. Or something like this. Okay. So there may be many layouts for a particular HTML web page. So how do we make these layouts? There are many ways to do it. In fact, we can either do it with table tag, or we can use Flexbox for it, or we can use grid layout for it. But the best thing to use it, Flexbox. So let's see how Flexbox work. Before actually moving to Flexbox, we'll be discussing one more thing that is very much important, and that is IDs and classes. They are basically known as CSS selectors. Let's take an example. Suppose that you have two DIVs, div1, and you have another div named as div2. Let's give it internal styling here. Now suppose that you want to add styling to this div. So what you do is you select this div by writing div element here, and you give it a color red if you want. Let's clear these properties from here. Now, if you are selecting this div, all of the divs are getting selected. So red color will also be applied to this div tag, and red color will also be applied to this div tag. Let's see the effect. Okay, I didn't save the file. Let's save it up. Let's refresh. Now you can see that red color is applied to both the divs. So we must find a way to distinguish these two divs. So to do that, we have class and ID attributes. So to give those attributes, what we write is div class is equal to, let's say it's div1, and let's give the second div a class of div2. And to select a class, we give dot before the class name. So now let's save. Let's go back to the browser, and now you can see that the style color red is only applied to the first div, not to the second div. Okay, so if you want to style the second div, you can select the second div by using dot div2. Let's give it a color green. And now you can see it in effect. This color is green and the first one is red. We'll discuss about IDs later on. Before that, we'll be discussing layouts. So suppose that we want to make, let's clear this. Suppose that we want to make this layout. Okay, let's fill some color here to make it more interactive. And let's select this and this. Suppose that we want to make this layout for our web page. How can we do that? Well, We can do that with DIVs. So let's give it a starting div tag. Let's give it a class of parent, and let's have two more divs tag. Let's give the first one class of left child and the second one class right child. Okay, let's go back to paint. So this div, the bigger div that you are able to see, the one in which these two divs are enclosed, is the parent div. Okay, this one is the parent div. Let's give it a color. So this div with background color yellow, which covers these both divs, is the parent div, and these two divs with class left child and right child are the children of it. Since we have not styled them yet, we have not selected them in the styling, and we have not styled them. So if we'll just save and we'll refresh the page, nothing will appear. So we need to style them. And how will we style them? We'll just select the first div, left child. Let's select the parent at first. Okay, so we have selected the parent. Let's give it a background color of yellow. Let's give it a width of 100% and a height of 500 pixels. Let's go back and refresh, and now you can see that we have this div with 100% width and height of 500 pixels. Okay, now suppose that we want to build these two divs here, the left child and right child. So for doing that, what we'll do is we'll select left child, and we'll also give it a particular height and width. We can give it a height of 500 px again to cover the entire parent, and we can give it a width of, let's say, 300 pixels. Let's give the right child height of 500 px and width of 300 px again. As you know that div is a block level element. I have not saved it. Let's save it, and let's give it a background color too. Let's say green, and let's say background color red. Okay, let's go back and refresh the page now. And now, as div is a block level element, so the stuff will not appear like this if we don't style it. All of the stuffs will appear on different lines. So we have a property called display, and we can display the parent as flex, and flex simply means flexible. So we are displaying the parent as flexible. Now let's hit Control S there in Sublime and F5 here. Now you can see that both the child appears here. Now let's remove the width. Okay, let's remove the width from both left child and right child. Let's go back to edge, refresh the page, and now you can see that both are gone. So we have a property called flex for children too. We can write flex1 for right child and flex1 for the left child too. Now you can see that both of them are requiring the same space. So we are certainly with this layout. And flex is simply for telling that how much space a particular div is acquiring. If we give it a higher flex, let's give the left child flex of 2 and the right child flex of 1. What will happen is the left child will acquire twice of space as the right child. If we give flex of 3 to the left child, it will acquire twice of space as the space acquired by the right child. Okay, so this is all about flex. You can even give width instead of flex. You can give width and percentage, like if you want to give 40% to the left child, you can give 40% width there. If you want to give 60% to the right child, you can give 60% width to the right child, like this. Okay. Now to add this space, this one, what we can do is we can add margin, or we can add padding for the parent. We can give a padding of 20 pixels, let's say 20 pixels. Let's resize the page, and now you can see the padding of 20 pixels appears here. So now we made the same layout that we made here in Paint. I will be making other layout. Let's clear this, delete. I'll select black color. We will be making this layout now. Let's fill color in each one of them. Okay, so now we want to make this layout. How this can be made? A parent in the very beginning, and then flex 1 to this, flex 3 to the right child, and then these can be adjusted as well. Let's try them. So we already have left child and right child. What we'll do is we'll just clear the width from here, not from here, from this. We'll give it a flex of 1, and we'll give the right child flex of 4. Okay, let's go back and refresh the page. Now you can see that this one requires lesser space than the right one. Now what we want is these two boxes, these two red boxes. Okay, so what we'll be doing for that is these two red boxes are certainly in the right child or in the right side of the bigger box. Okay, so we'll be adding two divs in the right side or in the right child. So let's add one div and say class is equal to first of right, and let's add another div with the class is equal to second of right. Now what we can do is we can select this first and second by using dot again in the CSS. Let's select the second by writing second of right. Okay, let's give it a background color, let's say blue, and for this let's give background color of yellow. Okay, and apart from giving background color, what we need to give is width and height, because we don't have anything in the divs right here, so they will not show up here. So to make them appear there, what we need is width and height. So let's give them width of 100%. Okay, we are giving width of 100% to both of them, which simply means that they will acquire entire width of their parent, and their parent is this red container. So they will acquire entire width of this red container. Let's give them a height of 200 pixels each, as the entire height is 500 pixels. So we are dividing the height between these two elements. Okay, save it, refresh it, and now you can see the effect. The same layout that we designed here is now here. We can even increase the height if we want for one element, and we can decrease the height for other element so as to make it look in the way we want it to be. Now let's work on navigation bar. Let's clear everything. Now we'll be building navigation bar. For navigation bar, we can either use a div tag, or we have a nav tag, which simply stands for navigation. We can use nav tag for building navigation. What we generally do for building navigation is we use either unordered list or ordered list, or we use the concept of flexbox again. Let's use flexbox for designing the navigation bar, and then we'll be using unordered list for it. So let's give first div, let's say home. Second div, let's give about. Third div, let's write contact. Okay, now let's suppose that we just have these three info. Let's give the navigation a class of top navigation bar. Okay, and to style this, what we do is we again select it in the CSS using dot. Let's give it a background color of black. Go back, we have something here. Let's make the color of the text to be white, since the default color of the text is black, so it's not appearing there. So now let's select div and give them color white, not black. 000 generally stands for black color, and FFF is the hexadecimal code for white color. You can even write white there and that will work. So now we have three steps here: home, about, and contact. Now what we want is we want them to be in horizontal manner instead of vertical manner. So we can again use the concept of flex. What we can do is, since this top nav is the parent of these all divs, so we can give display flex property to this top nav and they will automatically be adjusted in the same line. Let's increase their font size. Let's say font size to be 20 px. Okay, so the now font size is certainly bigger than what was it. Now what we want is, we want some space between these elements, between home, between about, and contact. So for internal spacing, what we do is we add padding. So we'll add padding to these divs. If we write div here, that means that we are selecting every div. So you can give padding of 20 px to each one of them. Now you can see there is space between every element. Now again, to remove this space, this white space from the right, top, and left, what we do is we select every element with a star, we give margin of 0, we give padding of 0. This is gone. Okay, so this is the basic navigation bar. Currently it has nothing. So suppose that when we go to the home, we want something to happen. So what when? Okay, so we want something to happen if we go on the home or about or contact. So what we can do is we can just use that div, and we have pseudo selector or pseudo class. We can write hover like this by giving a colon here. Okay, and suppose that we want the background color to be changed when someone hovers or someone places their mouse cursor on any of the divs. Suppose that we want to give background color of red when someone hovers a particular element. So now you can see when we hover over this element, we get background color of red. Now suppose that we want to change the cursor to hand. Okay, so to change the cursor to hand, we have an attribute called cursor pointer. And now you can see that when you hover over the button or when you hover over the div, the cursor is automatically getting changed to pointer or hand. Okay, now suppose that we want a smooth transition between the black color and red color, like this is just appearing within fraction of seconds. Suppose that we want the timing to be increased, so what we write is transition duration. Suppose we give it 1 second. 1s generally stands for 1 second. Let's refresh the page, and now when we hover to contact or any of the steps, what we see is the smooth transition. Okay, we can do anything here. We can even change the font color if we want, like we can say the color to be yellow when we hover over that element. Let's see the effect. Now you can see that the color of the font changed to yellow. You can even make the text underlined when we hover over that element, and for that I already told you that we have text decoration and we can make it underlined. Let's refresh, and now you can see that the text is also getting underlined. You can even increase the font size if you want, and however we can set it to 30px or 40px. That will not look good, but we are just experimenting right now. Now you can see that the font size is getting increased. Okay, so there's basic transition for a navigation bar. Now let's do it with UL. Here we did it with divs and with the use of flexbox. Now we'll do it with the help of UL and li tags. Let's comment this. And now let's create a UL tag. Let's add some list item. We'll say the first item to be home, the second item to be about again, the third contact. Let's save them, refresh, and now you can see that our another list appears here. So to make another list appear in the same line, we have some properties for it. So we can either select UL by giving it a class, or we can directly select UL by using UL in style tag. Let's give it a class of nav UL. Let's go to CSS. Let's try that class here. At first, let's give the UL a background color. We'll be again using black color. Now we want to make this text white. So we'll say color to be white. And the color is white. Now what we want is, we want all of the list items to appear in a single line. So we have a property for that, and that is display again. Okay, like here we used display flex. Now we'll use some other stuff. So we can select nav UL again, and now this nav UL has li as child. Okay, to select that child, what we do is we write nav UL and we give space and we simply write the name of the child, and this way the child of this nav UL li is getting selected. So we'll write display and write inline block. Inline block simply stands for placing the element in inline manner, or placing the elements in the same line. So now you can see that every list item appeared here in the same line. Now just as in the previous case, we gave some padding to the UL or some height to the UL. We can give it here also, but let's give padding to li at first. Let's give padding of 20px to each of the list items. So now each of the list item have padding of 20 pixels. Okay, now we can do the same thing, the thing that we did here. You can just copy this, paste it here, and now what we want to style is this li tag. So we can just paste that here, and now you can see the hover effect. Let's refresh, let's hover, and the same hover effect appears here. The transition duration, since it's not set here, so it's not appearing. So we can just set transition duration here, transition duration of, let's say, 0.4 second. You can even write 0.4 second, or you may even omit 0 from here, and the transition duration is now 0.4 second. Actually, this design is not good, since the navigation bar itself is adjusting a space. So we need to just comment this out, or we need to remove the font size property from the hover property. And now it will act as a normal navigation bar, right? So we saw designing navigation bar with the help of UL tag and display inline block, and we did the navigation bar with nav tag and div tag, and with the help of display flex. Okay, Now what we can do is we can see some other properties, CSS properties basically. So let's leave the navigation bar for now. Let's make another div. Let's give it a class of current. We can give any class. Let's write some content here. Let's write a random text here. Let's save it, refresh, and now you can, since we selected div here, and we wrote that on hovering over div, we are giving it a background color red, we are changing the cursor to pointer, we are giving the color of the text yellow, and we are increasing the font size. We didn't talk about any specific div. We just said that for any div, apply these properties. So what's happening is we made a new div here, and the same property is getting applied to it too. Okay, so if you hover over it, you can see the same property that was applied to the navigation bar is getting applied here. So to get rid of this, we usually use class or IDs. That's why we used class here of top nav. So what we can do is we can just comment this out for now. Now suppose we want to use this current div. So we can just select that, give a dot for selecting class, and now let's style it. Let's first see the changes. Now you can see when you hover up this div, nothing changes. Now let's give it a background color again, background color of red. Let's see the changes, and now it's here. Now we have a property called opacity. Opacity, as you must be knowing, opacity is for decreasing the opacity of a particular content. So we can set it to 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, ranging between 0 to 1. So if we make the opacity 0.4, it will be 40% transparent. If we'll make the opacity to be 1, it will be 100% transparent. Okay, it will be 100% transparent. If we make the opacity 0, it will not be transparent in any way. Okay, so now let's give the opacity as 1. Now as you have seen here that we wrote background color red. So we also have some other ways of representing a color, and the other one that we saw here is this hexadecimal format. We also have one more format, and that is RGBA color combination. RGB, R generally stands for red, G for green, and B for blue. Suppose that you want to give 255 red, 0 to green, and 0 to blue. The maximum value for a color can be 255. So what we are doing here is we are giving red maximum value and we are giving green and blue minimum value. So the background color will certainly be red. Let's refresh and you can see the red background color here. Now suppose that you want to give green background color. So what you can do is you can just write 255 in the green part. See, G is in between R and B, so we are giving 255 to the green. So now it's green. We can even decrease it, like if you want some light green color, you can give 100 or something like that. Okay, actually it's a dark green. You can even decrease it more, and you can see the effect accordingly. And here 0 0 0 means you're giving 0 of red, 0 of green, 0 of blue. So everything will be black for sure. Let's refresh and see. Now you can see that everything is black. In the same way, if we give 255 of, it means that 255 of red or maximum and maximum of blue. Let's refresh and you will be getting background color as white. Different color combinations using this. Let's suppose 100 of green and blue and 255 of red. This will result in a new color combination, and there's a little bit pink. We also have RGBA, and A stands for opacity again, or alpha. So we can give 0.5 of opacity to the background color, and now you can see that the opacity decreases. We can give 0.1 of opacity to the background color, and it decreases again. The maximum value is 1 again. So 1 is this color. So this is all about opacity and RGB and RGBA. We have some other properties too, and since the time is already 8:07 and I think that we have approximately completed an hour, so I'm gonna leave other steps for tomorrow, and that's all for today. I'm gonna stop streaming. We'll see tomorrow how to make more layouts. We'll see some other pseudo layouts. We'll select different DIVs by selecting their even childs or odd childs, and we'll do borders and other stuffs tomorrow.